Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday morning. Hope yours is going well. Let's talk rumors, guys. Let's dive into the rumor mill because there isn't a whole lot else Seahawks related to talk about right now, is there? Between these OTAs, there just isn't a whole heck of a lot going on. So let's make the most of whatever we can find. And today, what we have found is a rumor from the infamous Twitter account NFL Rumors. Now, if you've been around long enough, you know that these guys, sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss. But what I will say is this particular report is believable, and I've seen it reported by other sources as well, so it has a pretty good chance of having at least some basis in reality. So the subject of today's video will be Geno Atkins and if his future may be as a Seattle Seahawk. So, Geno Atkins had a phenomenal career as a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. He was there, I think, 11 seasons. He was part of their great defense that made the playoffs, I think, 4 to 5 years in a row. He had Pro Bowl years, I think a couple All Pro years, but it was time for the two sides to part ways. So, Geno Atkins is now on the open market. He has been for some time. And the question remains, who is Geno Atkins going to end up with? Well, according to reports, if this is to be believed, there are three teams that he's been in talks with so far. Three teams are currently showing some level of interest in Geno Atkins. We have the Seattle Seahawks, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Minnesota Vikings. Now, Geno Atkins is old. Geno Atkins has already had a very impressive career individually, and he's made a lot of money. So if you would have to assume what Geno Atkins is looking for, he's probably looking for a chance to win because he never won a playoff game in Cincinnati. He made the playoffs several times, but never won a game. So Atkins probably wants to go somewhere where he feels like he can get a playoff win and maybe even something a little more than that. So Jacksonville doesn't make a lot of sense to me if that is his priority. I mean, Jacksonville was the worst team in the league last year, and they have to prove their little rebuild project can walk before it can run, you would think, right? I know people are excited for them, but it's not going to happen overnight. And while the Vikings, I think, will probably be at least decent this year, of these two teams, unless Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay and leaves that division a little more wide open, if you had to choose between the Seahawks and Vikings being good in 2021, you would probably guess the Seahawks. I just think that you would. And I understand our division's the toughest in the league right now, probably. But even still, if you were trying to pick one team to go to that could most likely produce playoff success for you, and you were choosing between the Seahawks and Vikings, I think you would pick the Seahawks. So we may be in pole position. So let's talk about acquiring Geno Atkins. So, first, I'm not opposed to the idea. There is certainly a contract out there that Geno Atkins could sign that I would be totally comfortable and happy with. Geno Atkins has been a fantastic player for most of his career. He's done a lot of great things in Cincinnati. He's played in over 161 games. He's had three double digit sack seasons, including one as recently as 2018. He's made two All Pros. He's made eight Pro Bowls. The dude's a great player. There's no doubt about it. But here's the thing when you're taking a look at a player like Geno Atkins, and it's very easy to lose sight of things like this because the name kind of just gets in front of you. You look at the name and you go, whoa, whoa, oh my God, it's Geno Atkins. He made All Pro. He made Pro Bowls. He did this. He did that. But a lot of the time, you look at these players and you find that what you're going to get out of them, other than the name recognition, is not all that different than what you were already going to get from what you had. So, Geno Atkins had a pretty good year in 2019. He changed positions because the Bengals brought in a new coaching staff. They switched to a 3-4 defense. So, um, Atkins started playing a 3-4 end instead of a 4-3 tackle, and he was a trooper. He played in all 16 games, 4.5 sacks. He had good pressure numbers for a 3-4 end. He had 20 QB pressures, 47 tackles. These are good numbers for a defensive end in a 3-4 defense. So I don't take anything away from what he did in 2019. And then you get to 2020, and either the coaching staff was just kind of done with him, or the bottom dropped out very suddenly. And when it comes to players like this, like Geno Atkins, the bottom can just drop out like that. 8 games played. I think he was battling injuries for a lot of the season. He didn't start a single game. He had one tackle all season long, which, I mean, do I even have to explain how one tackle over the course of a full season is not doing your team that many favors? Pressure numbers non-existent. He had one QB pressure all season. Now, he didn't play that much. He only played in 119 snaps. That is what, not even 2 snaps worth of games. But honestly, even in this meager amount of playing time, you would have probably expected a little bit more. In 2019, he was able to take on a full load. So if you just want to completely scratch off 2020 as being a fluke year that you're not even going to look at, okay, you're looking at a guy who can take on a pretty big load. But Geno Atkins just turned 33. And when you start getting to that age, especially when you play a position as physically demanding as defensive tackle, you go from here to here really fast. It's definitely one of those positions where you just lose it overnight sometimes. And as for trying to understand exactly why Geno Atkins was getting less playing time, why he wasn't effective, why he didn't make an impact on the team, I mean, you can point to his lack of snap count and say, oh, maybe the coaches just didn't like him. But if you go to PFF, I I mean, a 54 grade, I know it's a small sample size, but maybe he was getting less playing time because he just wasn't making enough plays. And it's PFF knows how to appreciate a good Geno Atkins season. They gave him a grade of 76 in 2019, 2018, his last elite year, I think. Well, if the page ever loads, I think it'll show a grade that is, yeah, 82. So it Geno Atkins might just be it he the end may have came very quickly for Geno Atkins, and I I would hate to be the guy who's left holding a bag on somebody just as they get to the point where they can't do what they used to do. And at 33 years old, with over 10 years of mileage on his body, it would make a lot of sense for this to be a good ending point for Geno Atkins. And the other thing I want to talk about here is do not underestimate the impact of a guy who is hungry for that paycheck. Geno Atkins, in his career, has made almost $100 million in NFL contract money. Just shy of $100 million. He has made his money. He has made his fortune. He has solidified the future of his life and his family's life for potentially generations. He has done his, he has gotten the most out of his athletic ability in terms of affecting his bank account. So as he goes to his next team, wherever it may be, you have to wonder if the motivation is going to be there the way that it was. I mean, I know that Geno Atkins is a lot more talented than a guy like a LJ Collier or a Brian Monet, who are the guys that he would likely be taking playing time from if he came here. But don't underestimate the hunger of a guy like LJ Collier, who is on his rookie contract and has made very little NFL money. Or Brian Monet, who has made, I think, what, $1.5 million in his career and is desperately trying to find a way to make more. Yeah, don't underestimate the hunger of a player who hasn't made money and is young and has his whole career in front of him compared to a guy who has already made his money and already left his mark. Geno Atkins may already be a future Ring of Honor member for the Bengals, may already be one of the greatest players in Bengals history by the time he hangs it up. He's proven what he needs to prove. He just isn't going to have the fire that somebody like a Collier or a Monet do. And even though there's a talent discrepancy there, sometimes that talent discrepancy can be made up by that hunger to get that next contract because you haven't made a big NFL money yet. Now, if you bring him in, you do have all of training camp plus the preseason to see if he has anything left. And as long as the contract is appropriately structured, you can just boot him to the curb if he doesn't have anything left. So it's not like you have to take him blind. But Here's what I'm going to say about this. If you want to try to make the defensive line better, why not swing for the fences? Because I like our defensive line, okay? I like the players we have here. I like the players we have on the interior too. So if you're going to try to add another piece to it, don't add a piece that could very easily not be any better than what we have. And if Geno Atkins follows a typical career arc, as well as the career arc that he seemed to be establishing with what happened last year, why not go get somebody who you know is going to be better than what you have? Like, say, the guy who may be released in a few days from the Philadelphia Eagles, Fletcher Cox. Here's a guy who actually played last year, and he played pretty well. 15 games, 6.5 sacks. 6.5 sacks. I don't think we have anybody on our defensive interior that we can count on to get 6.5 sacks this year. Hopefully LJ Collier can do it. Puna Ford, I don't think he's got that in him. Al Woods, certainly not. Rasheem Green, he's not going to play enough. Yeah, 6.5 sacks would be among our sack leaders on the whole team, and probably a sack leader on the interior. 41 tackles, 9 for loss. I don't think we have any defensive tackles on this team right now that can match that. And Fletcher Cox is only going to be 31. And his history of being a productive pass rusher on the interior has basically been unbroken over the last 6 seasons. He's had years where the sacks didn't quite come the way that they were, like, say, 2019, he had 3.5. But it's hard to deny that he was always finding a way to be a destructive and very useful pass rusher on the interior. If you take a look at his pressure numbers, okay, 2018 was clearly one of his peak seasons, 45 pressures, but he still managed 21 and 22 the last 2 years. I don't get the sense that this guy's about to fall off the cliff the way I do Geno Atkins. You're not seeing that. You're seeing a guy who can still harass the quarterback, still make plays in the backfield, and still be one of the better defensive tackles in the league. And I have a good deal of confidence that Fletcher Cox at 31 is going to have at least a season or two left in the tank. I can't say that for Atkins. And Fletcher Cox, even if he takes a small step back in 2021, is definitely better than what we have right now. So if you are going to try to improve this team, bringing in Geno Atkins on a cheap prove-it deal that is easy to get out of in training camp is fine. But the defensive line we have right now looks pretty good to me. So why not go for the home run? Bring in Fletcher Cox, the guy who's actually been producing at a high level as recently as the last time he was on the field. So let's see if Fletcher Cox shakes free next week. If he doesn't, it's not like Geno Atkins is going anywhere. He's been on the free agent market for months. What's he going to suddenly sign now? Probably not. So we can afford to take a chance and go for a luxury pickup on the defensive line because our defensive line's pretty good. I think it's set for 2021 if need be. So if you want to try to get better there, go for it all. Go for the Fletcher Coxes of the world who can definitely help, definitely be an improvement. Not the Geno Atkins guys who, even though they have a big name, even though they've had a great career, even though you know that guy, even though you know he's one of the greatest defensive players of the last decade, might not be that much better than the 6th-round rookie or the UDFA third-year player that you already have. All right. I'll get back to you guys later. Peace out. Go Hawks. See y'all later in the afternoon. Let me know what you think.